As human beings, I believe that every single action that we take part in has to have a reason behind it. Before you buy that car, before you talk to that person, before you even go to the supermarket, you have to have had a reason as to why you're doing so, right? And you also need to realize that having a reason is not enough. It needs to be a good enough reason so that your decision is sustainable. For example, if you were to apply for a job just because you were bored at home, or just because you felt like you needed something to do, and you realize that the job became monotonous, it's not something that you enjoy doing, chances are you'll either quit or not give your all anymore. You'll lose interest, right? And so that's not a decision that can be sustained because the root cause of the decision was not valid. It was not good enough. Similarly, if you believe that God created you, God created us as human beings, the mere fact that you are still on this earth, the mere fact that you are still sustained here, if I may put it like that, just means that you had a reason for being here, and a good enough reason for that matter. You have a purpose. You have a calling. Do you know what it is?
Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Hazel Nima and you are in the 2 or 3 pod where God is in our midst. Now this is the second episode of our starter series where we'll be talking about purpose and calling. In this episode, you'll get to see how exactly I stepped into my purpose and calling, not fully, but this podcast was a manifestation of that, and you'll get a brief introduction to purpose and calling, getting to know the essential things about it. You know, some of us just talk about finding what you were called to do, finding what you were created to do, feeling like you have no reason for being here. But I mean, you do. So let's jump right at it. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. I'm reading from the Amplified Version, and says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you and approved you as my chosen instrument. And before you were born, I consecrated you to myself as my own. I have appointed you as a prophet to the nations." This is God speaking, and he's talking to Jeremiah. Hence the last part, "I've appointed you as a prophet to the nations." If you know the story of Jeremiah, he was a person who was called when he was still young, and he believed that he couldn't do it because of his age. He believed that this task is a bit too big for me, man. I think you're stretching it, right? But this is God saying that before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And the best part about this is when he says that he has approved you as his chosen instrument. Now, an instrument is a tool that is used to perform something, like a musical instrument, to perform a certain action. You are God's instrument. And before you were born, he consecrated you. To consecrate is just to dedicate something, to devote, to set apart for a certain thing. And so you are consecrated, you are set apart for God's purpose. The first thing that you need to know about your purpose and calling is that you have it. Before you are even born, God already said that this person over here, this person who's going to be implanted in that womb, has a reason for being here. Like, you're not just here to have a good time. You're not just here to waste your life or your youth. You're not here to spend your days scrolling and just looking at other people's lives. You need to live yours and to walk in the purpose in which you are created for. God called you for something. And that's what you need to know before we even get deep into this thing. Now, number 2, we've seen that you have a purpose. It says so in the scripture. But what's the main function of your purpose? If you're looking for it, if you're trying to search for why you're here on earth, for what you're supposed to be filling your days with, what really should you be looking for? Ephesians chapter 5 verse 15 to 17. Also Amplified Version. Verse 15 says, "Therefore, see that you walk carefully, living life with honor, purpose, and courage, shunning those who tolerate and enable evil, not as the unwise, but as wise, sensible, intelligent, discerning people." Verse 16, making the very most of your time on earth, recognizing and taking advantage of each opportunity and using it with wisdom and diligence, because the days are filled with evil. In verse 17, therefore, do not be foolish and thoughtless, but understand and firmly grasp what the will of the Lord is. Now, even just focusing on verse 17 alone, understand and firmly grasp what God's will is, what the Lord's will is rather. The Lord over your life. That's what it means. Like, you have to surrender to that will. Your purpose has to glorify God. Verse 15 says that you should shun those who tolerate and enable evil. Not just enabling it. Enabling it is you now actively doing it. So you're not just shunning the ones doing it, but you're also shunning the ones who are tolerating it. You're just looking at it happening. You're just observing it happening. You should shun that also. And so whatever it is that you're doing, it has to be to the glory of God. It has to be honorable. It has to be sensible, intelligent. It has to be a choice made out of discernment, right? And moreover, as we've read in Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, God called you as an instrument for Himself. God will not create you to glorify something else. Like, make it make sense. We are all actually created to glorify Him and to worship Him. If God called you as His chosen instrument, it will be for His glory. And so if your life does not glorify God, it doesn't even have to be career-wise or these other big things that people always look for in purpose. In your everyday life, are you glorifying God? Are you loving? Are you gentle? Are you portraying the attributes that Jesus did? I mean, are you living your life the way that God intended it to be lived? Or are you going your own way? Are you conforming to society? Are you mirroring what other people are doing? Even in bigger ways, your career, your calling in life. Are you actually doing something that's sensible and meaningful? Because in our modern world, there are actually a lot of jobs that are just crazy. People are being paid to basically sin. You're being paid to kill, you're being paid to steal, you're being paid to disrupt, like the goons. You're being paid to do evil. If you are to look at your life from God's lens, would it be pleasing to Him? Based on what He says in the Bible, based on the 10 Commandments even, based on all the teachings of Jesus, is your life pleasing unto God? Is how you treat people pleasing to God? Is how you look at yourself pleasing to God? Because God cannot say that you're wonderfully and beautifully made and then you have a negative self-image. Your purpose has to actually align with God in all areas of your life. That's what I mean. Even if you were to find that purpose, would you brag about it? Would you use it to God's glory? You need to evaluate your life from the ground up. Instead of just trying to reach for something, look at what you have now. Because God will not entrust you with something big if you've not even taken care of the little. Your character was supposed to glorify God. Your life, your day-to-day life, your words, your thoughts, your actions. It starts with that before you even get a revelation. So that's number 2. You need to know the main function behind your purpose, glorifying God. And a story that I can give is a revelation that I got when I was watching a sermon. Now, in the first episode of this starter series, I talked about how I'm always watching a sermon. One person that I always love listening to is Pastor Stephanie Ike Okafor. And I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that well, but she has some really good messages. And every single time that I watch one sermon, it just feels like a conviction. It feels so timely. It feels like something I needed to hear. She was talking about being fruitful. That was the main point of the message. She says that usually when you look at this story of Peter being told by Jesus to walk on water, we always tend to focus on the part where he started drowning. He started sinking because his faith wavered and he felt scared out of nowhere. But we never really focus on the fact that he had faith to begin with. Remember that there were other disciples in the boat who never even tried. They stayed in that boat, but Peter took steps on water. Even if there were just 1, 2, 3 steps, that took courage. It took faith to even get out of the boat. So really, the fact of the matter is, you need to be fruitful. Even if your faith is that little, you need to at least exercise what you have. Peter exercised what he had. He didn't have faith that he would walk all the way clearly, but the little that he had gave him a chance to walk on water, something that isn't even scientifically possible. You get what I mean? She talked about how if there's anything that the Holy Spirit is convicting you to do in this moment, just write it down. And immediately I wrote down, start the podcast, because it is something that I had been running from for so long. It is an idea that I got in May. This is now August. That's a pretty long time. The third, and what I believe is the most important thing to know about purpose and calling, is the consequence of not doing it. Because many a times, we tend to live our lives like it's ours. But really, the Bible even says we were bought with a price. You cannot just do anything that you want. The mere fact that you're here is by the grace of God. It's because He sent His Son to save us from death. So you are bought with a price. And if God reveals something to you, if you are told or convicted about a certain thing, you need to realize that whether or not you do it, if it was God's will for it to be done, it will be done. But there will be a consequence for you because you did not obey. There is always a consequence to disobedience. You can even read this from the Bible in the book of Esther chapter 4 verse 14 to the end of the chapter. For if you remain silent at this time, liberation and rescue will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish, since you did not help when you had the chance. And who knows whether you have attained royalty for such a time as this, and for this very purpose. And I love how they added the word purpose. Who knows if that job you got, that position as a CEO, that position in government, who knows whether you had attained that position for such a time as this, for such a time as helping other people who are in need. You are in a position to help other people. That's what this verse is saying. And just a brief explanation of the context of this verse is the Jews were being oppressed, and Esther was a Jew. She was in a place of royalty where she had access to the king. So she was basically in a position to speak up for the Jews. And her cousin even tells her to do it. In verse 13 it says that Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, "Do not imagine that you, in the king's palace, can escape any more than all the Jews." Just because you're not suffering with them, just because you're not also being oppressed in the same way, does not mean that you can escape that suffering, the suffering that they're facing. And we tend to do that when in our modern day world. We think that just because you're not also suffering like someone, it won't affect you. It was God's purpose for the Jews to be liberated. That's what you need to know. It was God's purpose. So if you're in a position to do something that is in line with God's will, and you choose not to do it, God will find someone else to do it. It says so in the verse. But you and your father's house will perish for not doing it. You will face a consequence. That's just the message. So it's actually quite dangerous not walking according to God's will. But something else that you can learn from this passage, and just learn from Esther generally, is to do with her courage. Because people tend to think that purpose is such an easy thing to do. It's not. The fact of the matter is, there's a consequence if you do it, and a consequence if you don't. It's up to you to now weigh what's worse. What can you actually live with? The wrath of God or the wrath of men? For Esther over here, in verse 15, it says that Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, "Gather all the Jews present in Susa and observe a fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will also fast in the same way. Then I'll go in to see the king without being summoned, which is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." Yeah, alisema come by and by. That's the thing. There was a consequence if she actually went to speak to the king without being summoned. So consequence if you do, consequence if you don't. What do you choose? When I was preparing for this episode is when I actually read verse 15 and 16. And something that I learned from it, something I picked up from it, is that when God sends you on a mission, when He sends you to do something for the sake of His will being done, He will protect you. We've talked about having a consequence if you do it. And that consequence won't matter if God's on your side. That's just the truth. Not only will He protect you, but He will equip you. He does not call you for something that He does not provide for. And we also see that during the time of Jesus, when He was sending His disciples to go preach the gospel, heal the sick, raise the dead, He even told them specifically, do not carry anything. Do not carry a change of clothes. Do not carry food. Don't even worry about where you're going to sleep. You will find somewhere to sleep. And true to the word of Jesus, they always found food. They always found a place to rest. And Jesus even said that if anyone does not receive you, if anyone is hostile towards you, don't even fight them. Just leave and shake the dust off your feet. Like, umeachana na wao. Because at the end of the day, there will always be opposition when you're walking with God. But you need to now pick your battles. Are you going to conform to the opposition, or are you going to conform to what God says you should do? Only one of those options will protect and equip you. And I know it's easier said than done, but that also depends on your walk with God and how much trust you put in Him. Individuals are different, and if you don't genuinely trust that God will do it, then it will be even harder for you. But taking a leap, taking a risk is easier when you actually know the power in the person who called you to do it. So stop doubting and stop letting fear control you. Esther did it even if she was scared. She was scared. Going to the king without being summoned. If I perish, I perish. But I did what God said. So at least even if I'm killed, I know that I died because of his cause, right? That's what she's saying. Just to recap on what you've said. Number one, you have a calling. Okay, so even if you're still searching, even if you don't know what it is yet, don't give up. You have it. Number two, don't be a paid sinner. Whatever you do has to glorify God. Whether you're paid to do it or not, in every single thing, glorify God with it. Number three, there is a consequence for not walking with God. There's a consequence for not walking according to His purpose and for not answering His call when He actually reveals it to you. Do what God says, just trust Him and take that risk. Otherwise, God will move without you and someone else will do it. If you've made it this far into the episode, thank you very much for listening. I hope you learned something from it. I definitely did when I was getting this revelation. If you have an experience that you want to share, feel free, whether personally or in the comment section. And don't forget to share this with a friend. Have a blessed and amazing day. Bye.